Hi, I'm Jim. I'm out here with Dr. Sara Siso, and it's been a long journey here that I've had over the last few years trying to figure out what was going on. 5 years ago, I had prostate surgery and had prostate removed and went through all of that. They told me that they got everything, there was nothing left behind. Didn't put me on chemotherapy, didn't put me on any radiation or anything like that. And I felt great. I thought everything was cool, clear. I kept eating my same old diet that I've always eaten. Moved on up the road with my normal life, doing the things that I did every day. And about a year and a half later, I went in for my PSA test. And it came back that I had moved up and started moving, and the doctor told me that my cancer was back. And I started searching to see what I could do, see what I could find. Looking on the internet, found a guy by the name of Ty Bollinger, The Truth About Cancer. Started reading a lot of his stuff, and then I found another lady on there about the alkali diet. Started reading a lot of her stuff and materials. Started trying to follow along, but still remains somewhat into my old diet, a little bit of the meat, and still eating my sugars and all that stuff, my sweets. Things didn't seem to get a whole lot better, even though I was eating more vegetables and fruits. And I kept moving along and moving up the line, and every time I'd go back for a PSA, it would creep up a little bit more. And about a year ago, I really decided I was going to try to get into a vegetarian type diet. And I did that pretty good, but in the meantime, as things were starting, my hands were an absolute mess. I kept asking the doctors if that was my cancer coming back, and they said no, that's just psoriasis or eczema. It was one thing after another. They would throw some creams at me. My hands would continue to get worse and deteriorate. Fingernails were being eaten up, stuff growing out the ends. I was getting tumors and little nodules in my fingers to where I couldn't even open up packages. And I would go back and ask the dermatologist again about the cancer, and they would say no, they wouldn't know anything about it. And it just turned into a fiasco. Finally, I decided the doctors really didn't know what they were talking about. They were trying to put a patch on something and just keep me coming back. It was just a horrible situation. And in February, I went back in for my PSA test, and my doctor said, well, it had reached to the point where I needed to start radiation and probably some chemotherapy. And I had been looking at things about truth about cancer for some time, and I knew there was another way. And as I went on through, I came out here to Phoenix for a few days and I spent December and January out here. And my daughter, she's already changed over and was being a vegan, basically a raw vegan, and she talked me into trying that. And I started trying that. And as time passed, the 2 months, by the time I left, I started seeing a difference in my hands. My tumors that was in my fingers had disappeared. My thumbnails, my fingernails, if you can look, my thumbnail here, February when I left to go back to North Carolina, February the 1st, that white was right up to there. And I started eating my good diet back in, I think it was middle of December. And as the fingernail started, as these lesions started to go away, the fingernail finally started to grow as I left here in February. And that is the amount that it's grown. And you can see the difference in my nail itself. It'll testify for the difference between a raw vegan diet from here to here versus the cancerous building diet that I'd been eating throughout the years. And they had scheduled me for radiation treatment for the 18th of April. And my daughter contacted me. She had found out about Sara through a friend of hers who's a doctor here who highly recommended her. And I made the phone, or actually I sent her an email. She had responded immediately to me, give me a call, and sent her phone number. I called her back. She gave me the full ins and outs and what to do, and she told me that she could help me and invited me out. So I immediately got a ticket and jumped on an airplane and headed this direction. My daughter picked me up at the airport. I was very skeptical of her though, and when I first met her, she was very blunt and right directly to the point, which is probably what I needed. But I had some skeptics. I was very skeptical of what she was telling me. I had some doubt. And it took a little time. I think it took about 2 hours for me to start to get a little bit of trust in her. By the second day that I'd met her, I started building a lot of trust in her. I started meeting doctors who just highly told me about her success rate on what she had done. I mean, it's just phenomenal. I totally have trust. I totally trust her. I did everything that she has asked me to do. And in the 10-day of detoxification, all my lesions have healed up. My fingernails, all the sores that were on my hands are completely gone. In the prostate area where I felt a lump that was growing, I feel that thing is just about completely gone. It's disappeared as I sit here and sit on it. My back was starting to bow and bend over. I was losing bone density. I was shrinking in height. I was starting to bend over. And in that 10 days, she's had me doing jumping exercises and a few different things that she started. And all of a sudden, my back is straightened back up. I'm standing tall and straight again. I feel so good. Even my hair is starting to come back. It's amazing. I mean, I don't know what I could say to get you to trust her, but I have built my total trust in this lady in this last 10 days, and I would highly recommend her to anybody. If you have a health problem, her 3 weeks back to health will fix you. I don't care if it's dementia. I don't care what your problem is. She has got a fix for it through her diet. I would highly recommend that you contact her if you have a problem. Dr. Sara Siso, right here in, actually she's in Cave Creek. I'm staying in Phoenix, but fantastic lady.